Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel and listening to my welcome video. I'm so excited to be joining YouTube. You have no idea. This is so awesome. I've wanted to do this forever. I just didn't really ever know if it was going to be the right time. But the reason why I want to get onto YouTube is because I've used YouTube and it's helped my life so much. There are so many people who have put out so much content that have kept me going through tough times, and I've learned so many things. I've developed so many skills, and I just kind of want to give back to this community. So I'm really excited to be spending some time with you. I've now spent over 12 years developing in entrepreneurship. So I spent a lot of time in communication. I've spent a lot of time with self-development around these different areas of human nature and leadership. And I think I can bring some great qualities to help people through some of these processes. And really my goal is that I want to help people who maybe are agents right now, but they want to become an agency owner, or they want to become a broker, or they want to get more into business. And we need to learn all of these different concepts and how they work together. So we're going to talk about strategies of recruiting and how to build and train people, and what to do when you get that 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. phone call with your guy who's trying to quit because he's been talking to his wife and maybe things aren't going that well. What do you do in all of these different scenarios to be able to help people through this process in building your business? And how do you attract and retain people that they want to come into your environment, that they want to stick around, that they can grow and develop in this area? And I think that this is going to be really helpful. This is one area that I haven't seen anything on YouTube. Of course, you have John Maxwell and people who are talking about leadership, and you're talking about people who do different kinds of things. There's tons of stuff around sales. There's things about maybe how to recruit somebody, but I don't think there's really anything on this actual topic, or at least not much that I've seen, or any real experts who have really dove into this. And so I'm really excited to be doing it. I think it's going to be a great niche to kind of fall in and be able to help people with, now that I've been developing teams for a long time. And I think this can develop in a lot of different ways. Maybe somebody who's in real estate and they want to develop their team, or maybe they're in financial services like I am. Maybe they want to sell solar, or they do multi-level marketing, or they play on a sports team, or maybe they're just wanting to get better with their wife and kids. All of these different areas I think we can do better with in understanding and doing personal development around communication, human nature, and leadership. And I think understanding these three main things can really help in every single aspect of our life, because all of these areas, communication, human nature, leadership, are going to be huge tie-ins and help us get through these different processes. And I feel these are a lot of things that I've had to learn through trial and error. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of help on YouTube around these things. So my goal is to help answer some of those questions that you have pertaining to all of these different areas. And so let's talk a little bit about my background. I've played a lot of sports. I did basketball and soccer growing up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Las Vegas or not, but I went up to UNR for a while. I loved it. It was absolutely great. I came back down to UNLV. I ended up finishing up with a mechanical engineering degree. I have worked a ton of different jobs, so I've seen a lot of different areas. I've seen teams that worked really well. I've seen teams that don't work very well. I've been a part of both. I started off in a banquet facility, so I was back of house. So I was learning how to do dishes. It was my first job, was in the back of house, learning how to do dishes, 15 years old, I think, and slowly kind of grew through that process. I've had just great coaches and people who I don't even think knew they were coaching me, but I just listened to their thought processes, and I learned so much. And so working at this banquet facility, my uncle, somebody that grew up around our family, he had taught me different concepts, and he said something as simple as, I will give you raises, show me why I need to give you a raise. And so that made me work harder, it made me achieve. I started then doing as much time as I could in the banquet facility. I'd come in early, I'd stay late if I needed to, I'd come in and meal prep or whatever I needed to do. I'd wash the owner's car on the weekend if I needed to, anything to make some additional money. I started liking nice things, so I had to find ways to get creative and make money. So then I started actually becoming a sous chef. I helped them cook in the kitchen. Then went to the front of house. I learned how to turn tables and set up. And after a couple of years, I was kind of leading the place. The owners would leave and they put me in charge. I was 18, 19 years old at this time, telling people what to do. And I just learned what it was like to have a system that worked well. And these people along the way, like I said, have just taught me so many tremendous things. I then went into work on furniture. A girlfriend's dad actually had owned a furniture company. He had a bunch of other different things that he did as well. He owned the Longhorn out here. And so basically he taught me some ideas of how to be a business owner and how he would go out and find different companies. I think Caesars had a bunch of tables they needed to be refinished. So he hired people to come in and refinish the tables. And I was like, wait, that's really interesting. Instead of making a couple dollars an hour, he's making tens of or hundreds of thousands of dollars having other people work. And I just started looking at things from a different perspective. I also worked at a gypsum factory. I got a chance as an internship to go out to the gypsum factory and do that for a little while. Realized I never wanted to do that. I've done a bunch of labor. I did some landscaping for a cousin of mine who owned a business. And then after all of those things, I became an engineer. And I started working for Clark County, more so on roads. So it was probably more of a civil job, even though I went to school for mechanical engineering. And then 2008, 2009 kind of checked my whole world. Everything got turned upside down and I had to figure out this entrepreneurship thing. I was in a position where I was like, man, I never want to be in a spot. I felt like our jobs were not secure. And every job that I've worked at, it was always kind of like, I didn't know what was going to happen. There was always this huge insecurity fact about that. And I just didn't want to spend 10, 20, 30, 40 years working for somebody else to come to find out at the end of the road that they were going to let me go. And that was kind of what happened when I was doing engineering. It was right before I was supposed to start getting my pension. They kind of just started putting people on the chopping block. I was one of the last ones to be hired, so I was one of the ones that got let go. I thought I had kind of made a bunch of the cuts, but after that, nobody really wanted to hire mechanical engineers for quite a few years. So I started building cars. I was already kind of working on them on my own, but I had a 10-second Trans Am that was supercharged, a Pro Charger on it. It was super fast. It was a ton of fun, but I couldn't sell the thing. So I had to figure out how to make money. So I pulled it apart, put it all back together to stock, sold all the pieces, actually made some money that way. I don't think I could sell the whole car for like $10,000, and I ended up selling the car for $10,000 and the parts for $10,000. So I was like, okay, I can learn how to make money doing some of these things. I built some race cars. I had an orange Camaro that was pretty cool. It had a rear mount turbo on it. So I had a ton of fun doing that, was finding parts and building cars. But what I realized very quickly was people who were in that industry, they oftentimes had challenges with their marriages. They oftentimes had challenges with living a good life. And in fact, in all of the areas that I had worked, I had noticed the people who had been there for a long time generally were not super happy. They were not very successful. And in fact, especially working on cars, I realized that my body was deteriorating faster than I could make money. I had all kinds of back pains. If I wasn't going in and getting massages and doing chiropractics almost on a weekly basis, then I couldn't walk. It was hard to sleep laying down. It was hard to sleep sitting up, self-medicating the alcohol to try and help sleep, and all of those things. And I don't know why, but I had this blessing that if I looked into the future, or as I looked into the future, I realized this was not going to get me to the life that I wanted. You can't, even if I was making plenty of money, I was never going to get there in the shape that I wanted to be able to spend time with my kids and go travel with my wife and do all of those things. And I wasn't married or had kids at the time, but I knew those were things that I wanted. So I started changing some things about my life. And I thought through that entrepreneurship process would really be the only way. So I started getting my finances in order. I ended up running into a company that was willing to help me. They invested time into me. They taught me concepts. And I just thought, man, these guys are making $250,000, $500,000, some of them multiple millions of dollars a year, developing teams, building agencies. It's like, man, I would love to figure out how to do that, because they would leave in the middle of the day to go watch their daughter's softball game. And I didn't know any parents who were doing that. My parents couldn't do that. I didn't know anybody's family whose parents could do that. But I wanted to be able to do that. And so I started on this journey. I failed a whole lot. I failed a lot of money that was invested, a lot of time that was invested, not just in personal development, but trying to figure things out, trying to do things my way. And now with YouTube and a lot of these things, I love that we can help each other. I love that we can support each other. I love that we can go in and get ideas. We can cut this learning process down so much faster because people are willing to share their experiences. People are willing to put themselves out there and for the criticism and everything else and get on camera and share their story so that somebody else coming behind them can be better off than they were without that. And so that's really special. I don't think that you find that very often. And I want to just share my life in this process, and I want to document some of these stuff. I want to share this time with you and get to know you guys better. And it's just going to be a ton of fun. And I hope that this experience over the next 10, 20 years really is going to track our progression. So as of right now, we're recruiting hundreds of people a year. We have thousands of clients. And so I feel like I'm kind of in a position now where I'm comfortable enough to go, okay, these things are working. We're definitely not where we want to be, not at the top of the company or anything like that, but we're on our way. Our trajectory is that we're climbing, and we're climbing very quickly. So I want to share these principles with you. And why it's going to be different is because a lot of the people who do the speaking, they did these things 10, 15, 20 years ago, which is awesome. And there's great principles and understanding in those things, but it's different when it's happening now. You guys know the difference when you're standing in front of somebody, or you're working somebody, or you've paid for a course or something, and you can tell the person is in the game. It's a different experience than when it comes from somebody who did it 15, 20 years ago. And I'm not saying there's not value in that, but times have changed. Things are different now. Or maybe it's just being in the game that makes a difference. And so I want to share these things with you. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to share some great experiences together, and I'm going to be learning right alongside with you. And I want to be sharing these things that I'm doing and things that are working so that it can catapult your success, that you can get through those areas of frustration that I sat in for a long time, that I was trying to figure out, that I had to try all these different doors. Whereas if I can show you which doors are more successful, which doors are going to help you build teams and be better with your family and be better with your kids, and understanding human nature and communication and leadership and combining all of those things to develop the people that are around you, I think that it can help you through that process, and you can do it even faster. And the value that I'm going to get from that is that I'm going to be able to watch this, and I'm going to be able to take notes. And a lot of times we learn even better when we're teaching. And so thank you for giving me that opportunity. I'm really excited to spend some time with you guys. Let's get after this thing. Let's go.